Thank you, Beth. I needed those words. I don't know about you. Let me begin by speaking a little bit about the title of today's service. When I wrote it a month ago, more than a month ago, Renee Good and Alex Preddy were still alive, and I had not yet answered the clergy call to Minneapolis. I already was deeply concerned for the fate of our country and its people. I suspected that by now we might need to rally in solidarity. Little did I know. How many of you have heard of today's title somewhere? Once more unto the brink, at breach. Once more unto the breach came to my mind from Shakespeare's Henry V, Act 3, Scene 1. Once more unto the breach, dear friends, once more, Henry shouts, as he urges his troops to enter the breach they have made in a French nobleman's wall to take control of the town within by force. Since learning more about that scene of the play, I have regretted the title for its overtly militant association. That was not my intention. Militancy is something we do not need more of at this time. Courageous, nonviolent resistance, yes. Armed violence, no. The world is bombarded daily by tragic, traumatic, morally outrageous situations, perpetrated in part by our federal government, moving quickly toward a fascist dictatorship. It is easy to feel overwhelmed and numb, discouraged and disheartened, confused and helpless. As I mentioned last week, the window for preventing a dictatorship is closing. Each of us has a role to play, and we are stronger together. I felt grateful to come across Kathleen McTeague's chalice lighting words, reminding us that here we are on the forming edge of our lives. And it's okay to remind one another to rest a moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and even gratitude. I don't know about you, but some of us need that permission to rest. Before we react in ways we might regret, it's important for us to begin, as Ashley Horan suggested, and my therapist keeps reinforcing for some reason, by looking inward and asking ourselves John Wesley's question, how is it with your soul? To recognize when our nerves are frayed, when we are weary and need rest, when we need to receive care from others. To not fixate on why bad things happen, but to ask, how is it with my soul? What do I need? And when we better understand that, when we've put on our own oxygen mask first, then we can pivot and ask, what do we need? What is required of us? It is then time to begin brainstorming and reaching out, asking, who else needs help? Maybe this is second nature to you. Who might we call on for help? How might we cultivate networks of trusted allies? What skills, tools, training, or communication might be required? What is this Signal app that people are talking about? I reached out for help in preparing this service, asking what has helped you show courage and what has helped you maintain a resilient spirit in life, and a few people responded. One said that they drew strength and resiliency from seeing others put themselves in harm's way, observing courage in action. And those who put in the work to heal from physical injuries and emotional demons. This person cultivates their own resilience by taking time each week to assess what they've done or didn't do. And they believe that somehow moving forward is the measure of success. Another person among us shared about traumatic times in their life, devastating, life-changing events involving infidelity, single parenting, job loss, poverty, and the shocking death of a loved one. Before those tragic, traumatic events, they had learned to stay optimistic about the future. Eventually, they were able to see how these events helped their life take a positive turn. Moving back to Michigan, they wrote, was the beginning of their journey to this day of resilience. And they have had to call on that resilience more often than they would like to admit. A third person shared that they have devotedly held on to 3 teabag tags as reminders of courage and resilience. On them are printed, "Worry is the interest paid on trouble before it becomes due. The human spirit is stronger than anything that can happen to it. And the most effective way to cope with change is to help create it." I'm grateful for those who contributed today. How many of you still own a paper dictionary? Wow. Many more than I expected. For those who do not, neither do I. One of today's tools is Google AI. And here's what it had to say about courage and resilience. It's okay, it makes sense. Being brave and resilient involves facing fears, embracing vulnerability, and actively adapting to adversity. Cultivate bravery by taking action despite fear. And when failure occurs, build resilience through self-compassion, learning from mistakes, and maintaining supportive connections. This advice resonates with today's readings. What does Unitarian Universalism have to say about courage and resilience? I loved Reverend Huron's articulating some of our Unitarian Universalist theologies, principles, and values, beginning with self-compassionate affirmations. You are loved beyond belief. You are enough. You are precious. Your work and your life matter. How many of us have wanted to hear those words all of our lives? She then moved to supportive connections, and you are not alone. You are a part of a great cloud of witnesses, living and dead, who've insisted that this beautiful, broken world of ours is a blessing worth both deep gratitude and fierce protection. Our ancestors and our descendants are beckoning us, compelling us onward toward greater connection, greater compassion, greater commitment to one another and to the earth. Together, we are resilient and resourceful enough to say yes to that call, to make it our life's work in 1,000 different ways, knowing that we can do no other than bind ourselves more tightly together and throw ourselves into the holy work of showing up again and again, to be part of building that world of which we dream but which we have not yet seen. Today's story reminded us of all the tools that we have available for coping as we answer that call. It reminded us that we have options, that we can learn what tools work best for which needs, and that we can benefit with regular practice. How often do we practice using our tools? Maybe not often enough. Today's prayer reminded us of our interconnectedness in a web of holy relationships that transcends even time. It reminded us that we are not alone in history, not alone in entering the future, and not alone in times of grief, pain, joy, or wonder. It reminded us that we might find inspiration in our history, in our tradition, and in our commitment to future generations. Comforted and confident, then, we might recall the courage of our living tradition, the patience and perseverance that life requires, and that the spirit of life itself is manifested in our hands and hearts and voices. We are the embodiment of our sacred values. Centered and grounded, we might again hear the call to open our hearts, our minds, our hands, our souls, to help our neighbors, to be present to one another, to renew our faith, and to share in the work ahead. Finally, historian and author Howard Zinn, in his book, You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train, wrote, "To be hopeful in bad times is not just foolishly romantic. It is based on the fact that human history is a history not only of cruelty, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, and kindness." This is what I reported weeks ago from my trip to Minneapolis. It's a devastating world and inspiring at the same time for those who step up and offer kindness. Zinn goes on to say, what we choose to emphasize in this complex history will determine our lives. If we see only the worst, it destroys our capacity to do something. If we remember those times and places where people have behaved magnificently, this gives us the energy to act, and at least the possibility of sending the spinning top of a world in a different direction. And if we do act, in however small a way, we don't have to wait for some grand utopian future. The future is a succession of present moments. And to live now as we think humans should live, in defiance of all that is bad around us, is itself a marvelous victory. So as life and circumstance call us once more unto the breach, ask me later about the difference between into and unto. Let us ask ourselves and one another, how is it with my soul? Let us discern the needs, the tools we might use, and who might help us. Let us recall our interdependence, the web of life and relationships of which we are a part across time and space. Let us open our hands, hearts, and souls to help our neighbors, to renew our faith, and to share in the work ahead. And in defiance of all that is bad around us, let us live as we think human beings should live. May it be so, and blessed be.